Hello and welcome to the last edition of Spacewatch and our final mission to choose the winner of the Spacewatch competition. The prize, a trip to the home of Space Shuttle launches at Cape Canaveral. There are 5 finalists, all of whom correctly answered the questions we set in TV Times back in July. I'll be talking to each finalist a little later. In fact, among the thousands of entries we had, over 150 of you correctly answered all 4 questions. Here's a reminder of the questions and the correct answers. Question 1. In which constellation is the star Betelgeuse found? A. Gemini, B. Cygnus, or C. Orion? The answer is C, the constellation of Orion. Betelgeuse is that bright orange-red star in the top left-hand corner. Question 2. Apart from our Sun, which is the brightest star in our sky? A. Venus, B. Sirius, or C. Polaris? The correct answer is Sirius, the dog star, that bright star that we find to the south of Orion. Question 3. What is the Crab Nebula? A. A newly born star, B. The debris of a star which exploded, or C. A bright comet? The answer is B, the debris of a star which exploded. In fact, it's one that was seen to explode in our sky 900 years ago. Question 4. What is Olympus Mons? A. A volcano on Mars, B. A crater on Titan, or C. A sea on the moon? The answer is A, a volcano on Mars. In fact, it's the second biggest volcano in the solar system. As well as those questions, we asked you to think up an experiment to put aboard a space shuttle and to describe it in not more than 50 words. You sent in lots of good ideas, but many of them were the same. Obviously, great minds think alike. So the only way to choose the best 5 was to make a final judgment based on presentation. So now let's meet the finalists and ask them in turn to describe their experiments. First, let's begin with Stuart Downward from Nottingham.
My idea was to have positioned in space by the space shuttle a radio telescope receiving long-wave radio waves from space.
Well, Joanne, you had an odd suggestion. It had to do with fish, I believe.
Yes, it's to take a sealed tank of fish into space and see how they would cope in weightlessness, and then later on take eggs up into a space station and let them hatch out there.
And Amarjeet, you had a fascinating suggestion that had to do with flightless birds and other creatures. How did you come about this?
Well, I've got a book and it's got pictures of revolving space stations of the future.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them just had pools of water with no life.
Oh.
And so I thought if you could have flightless birds which couldn't crowd the air above, like the penguin, or which just live near the water and feed off fish.
Rachel, we also had a natural history suggestion from you that had to do with small animals being born in a space station.
Yes, I thought it would be a good idea to put a rat that's about to give birth on the space shuttle and see if the birth could take place without any gravity, see what effect it had on the offspring.
And Peter, you had a suggestion that had to do with plants.
Yes, how do plants react to zero-G? Well, the future of long-term space travel depends on this sort of research.
So there we are, the 5 finalists. Who's the lucky winner? Well, before we find out, let's take a look at the prize itself. A trip for 2, the winner and a parent, to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And quite a spectacular prize it is too. The Kennedy Space Center has a lot of bits and pieces of rockets, most of them that we have seen on television making space history, including full-scale, not mock-ups, but real instruments waiting there for us to explore. There's also a chance to meet someone dressed up as a spaceman and perhaps take a look at the full-sized mock-up of a lunar module and see a Saturn 1B rocket. Of course, you can also go to film shows and hear lectures and talks on recent discoveries in space, have a look at a Mercury capsule, or even at an Apollo command module, one of them that has actually been in space. But of course, the Kennedy Space Center is the home of the space shuttle. Not only is it assembled here, but it's also launched. And hopefully, if everything works well, it's possible that we may actually see the next launch of the Space Shuttle Columbia. The competition, by the way, is jointly sponsored by TVam and the British Airways Junior Jet Club. And this is Captain Chris Olibar, a British Airways Concorde pilot, who in a few moments will announce the winner. But first, Chris, tell us something about the Junior Jet Club.
Well, the Junior Jet Club is an organisation which has been set up by British Airways to encourage youngsters to take an interest not only in the technical side of aviation, but of course in the travel side of aviation as well.
Well, what's it like actually to fly on Concorde?
Well, of course, it's a marvellous aeroplane. It's a real aviator's aeroplane. Mind you, there's a lot of computerage between what you actually do and what actually happens, so that tends to flatter the pilot. But it's an aeroplane which is really quite like no other.
It's almost like a little spacecraft because it flies just on the edge of space, doesn't it?
We're just on the threshold of space, so that if you look out of the window during a flight, you can see the dark blue of outer space, and if you look carefully at the horizon, you can even make out the curvature of the Earth. Mind you, just recently, we haven't been able to make that out quite so clearly. Since this volcano in Mexico has been erupting, we found that the visibility between 50 and 60,000 feet has been reduced from, say, 300 to about 200 nautical miles.
I mean, is it true you have to look out for space-age hazards like cosmic rays and solar flares?
We've got a detector on board which detects radiation from solar flares, and if we should encounter one of those, of course, we descend so that the atmosphere above us can shield us. But mind you, the dosage rate on Concorde is exactly, although it's double that you get on a jumbo, but on a jumbo you're there for twice as long, so at the end of it all you're just as well or badly off as you would have been, no matter which aeroplane you flew.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Chris, but don't go away. We have an important job for you to do shortly. In the meantime, if you are interested in becoming a member of the Junior Jet Club, here is the address. It's the British Airways Junior Jet Club, Post Office Box 150, High Wycombe, HP11 2TR. So now the moment we've all been waiting for, the winner of the Spacewatch competition. So Chris, tell us who's going to be the lucky person.
Well, the lucky person is Stuart Downward of Nottingham, and I must say I really do envy him this trip to Kennedy Space Centre. I think his idea was simply magnificent. Well done, Stuart. Many congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, that sounds good. And how's he going to get there?
Well, British Airways, naturally.
And for the runners-up, each will receive a copy of the special Spacewatch video to be released at Christmas by Longman Video, price $29.95. And incidentally, I had a chance to meet all the finalists last night and talk to them all at length about their experiments. So I've had plenty of time to consider the winner. Well, that's it from Spacewatch.
Oh, I wouldn't mind joining them. Wouldn't you? Well, listen, you can't go till you finish off that plateful. Now,